or perhaps regulate it? That's a conversation we shall be having later on this broadcast. But first, let's take a look at the highlights. "13 years since the coming of the new Kenyan constitution, we take you down that bloody and tear-drenched memory lane. A dispute over a 60-shilling debt causes the death of a middle-aged woman with property of unknown value touched in retaliation over her death. Hundreds of young people in Eldoret are demanding refunds from controversial recruitment agency First Choice after the jobs they were promised during the Qatar World Cup failed to materialize.
Lakini hatujalipwa bado. Ni ile tu mambo ya bouncing check ndio inaendelea bado. Tunapata check yenye ina bounce.
And tonight, on To The Point, we talk TikTok, a ticking time bomb or a misunderstood and misused platform? Right, thank you so much for joining us this Sunday on this week's edition of TV47 Weekend Edition. That conversation I mentioned shall be coming your way shortly on To The Point. But thank you so much for joining us. Remember, you can engage with us on social media. Our handles are at TV47 News on Twitter, TV47 Kenya on Facebook, and at Grace Kuria KE on Twitter. Remember, we are asking you what your thoughts are. Apologies. Regarding Twitter, is it time to ban the app? Is it time to regulate the app? I don't know. You tell me, and I shall sample your feedback later on. My name is Grace Kuria Kanja, and our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy. Once again, welcome to the broadcast. Now, tonight, President William Ruto says he will support the establishment of the Office of Leader of Official Opposition, which is also one of the agenda by Kenya Kwanza in the ongoing talks. He was speaking during his tour of Western Kenya, and George Maringa now reports.
On his second day of the tour of Western Kenya, President William Ruto arrived at the Bungoma airstrip for an interdenominational Thanksgiving service. He was accompanied by other elected leaders. Here, he pointed out that creation of the Office of Official Leader of Opposition would receive backing from the government.
Nimesema vile vile kama wanataka tutengeneze ofisi ya Leader of Opposition kule bunge, niko tayari to fund na serikali ya Kenya. Awe anatoa statement kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni, hii serikali imekosa hapa, hii serikali haijafanya hii serikali imekosa pale, mimi sina problem. Ama namna gani? Si ndio? Si akisema mahali nimekosa na ninaona kweli kuna makosa zinarekebisha.
The creation of Leader of Official Opposition is among the proposals from Kenya Kwanza in the ongoing dialogue between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza.
Today we are having a conversation in the Republic of Kenya, not about sharing positions, not about politics that are interests of people. We are today having a conversation about the...
As the talks continue, the head of state was quick to warn the opposition that the government will not condone destruction of property and chaos in the guise of exercising democratic rights.
Ile tumekataa na hiyo sitakubali. Kwa vyovyote ni fujo na vita na kuharibu mali na kuchoma mali ya umma na kuharibu biashara ya wananchi na kulete uhasama katika taifa letu na kusabotage economy ya Kenya. That is not acceptable. It is unpatriotic, it is undemocratic, it is illegal, it is unconstitutional, it is against the rule of law. So we must all agree tuishi ndani ya sheria na tupeleke taifa letu la Kenya mbele.
Other leaders who accompanied the president threw their weight behind the talks, despite Azimio leader Raila Odinga's warning on Sunday that Kenyans should be ready for the resumption of Azimio protests should the talks fail to yield any fruits.
Kwa hivyo wewe kana yeye, man to man, mundu ku mundu, na mimi na Kalonzo tutakaa mundu ku mundu. Na tutaongea, na tushakubaliana ya kuwa mambo ya vita, mambo ya vurugu, mambo ya violence itakuwa mambo ambayo lazima ikome Kenya hii.
Na yale ndugu wetu amesema kwamba watu wanasema umeweka Kenya on the election mode ni kwa sababu walikuwa nafikiri ati wewe utakuwa mzembe. Sasa wamekimbia, wanaona the pace you have set is a different pace and we have to move together.
Unajua yule mzee ambaye tuliweka kwa wheelbarrow tukapeleka huko Bondo, alitumia shortcut akakimbia akarudi Nairobi. Makosa yenye tulifanya, tungemwekea simba kwa mlango. Sasa wakati tungewekea yeye simba kwa mlango, hangekuja huku.
President William Ruto's 5-day visit to Western Region will see him launch various development projects covering 4 counties: Busia, Bungoma, Kakamega, and Vihiga. George Maringa, TV47.
Right, thank you so much, George Maringa, for that. In a section of Kenyans under the flagship of promoters of the popular initiative Constitutional Amendment have proposed the 2010 Constitution Amendments through a popular initiative. This as the country marks 13 years since the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010. The group says they are on the verge of collecting more than 1 million signatures to aid their noble cause that will see a number of clauses changed to suit Kenyans collectively. And as Mike Kagwanga reports, the lobby group says there is need to relook the issue of representation once again, despite various attempts to change failed.
Will now waive it.
As Kenya marks 13 years since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, a section of Kenyans have called on its amendments in a bid to collectively engage all Kenyans in its implementation. Led by former Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Director PLO Lumumba, the lobby group under the flagship of promoters of popular initiative Constitutional Amendment says it's time for a constitutional amendment that will bring inclusivity amongst the people of Kenya and the political class.
Because the auger of corruption continues to be an albatross around the neck of our country, undermining our growth.
The group says there is need to take another look at the representation issue under the 2010 promulgated draft, as well as a review of the legislative framework. Lumumba also raised an issue with the structure of the current executive.
We believe that we should look at marginalized communities. Do they think and feel that they are part of Kenya?
It is only in order, it is normal that constitutions are relooked into 10 years after.
For a very long time, women have been left out and marginalized in many areas. They haven't been included. Inclusivity has been a question at hand.
Supporters of the 2010 Constitution have expressed concern that the political elite may be plotting to change the supreme law to suit the political expediency. And with a bill pushed in Parliament seeking to create the positions of official opposition leader and deputy opposition leader, NARC Kenya Party leader and former Justice Minister Martha Karua has urged Kenyans to focus on fully implementing the Constitution rather than trying to review it. She says, and I quote, "We have a great Constitution which we have deliberately failed to faithfully implement, but are always eager to amend." End of quote. Karua lamented that implementers had let Kenyans down and insisted that changing the Constitution would not alter the attitudes of the ruling class. She says, and I quote, "The elephant in the room is lack of integrity across the board in the performance of public duty. Institutions are as good as the people manning them. Equally, a constitution is as good as its implementers. No amount of amendments will cure moral infirmity. If we truly desire positive social change, then we must faithfully implement the letter and spirit of the Constitution, beginning with our national values." End of quote. The National Council of Churches Nakuru branch brought into remembrance that the promulgation of the Constitution was the culmination of the grueling liberation struggle in which lives were lost and families tormented, as religious communities in Kenya played a pivotal role through the Ufungamano initiative for the Constitution of Kenya review process.
To build a culture of constitutionalism and promotion of the rule of law. This is the meaning of Article 3, subsection 1, which means that every person has an obligation to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution.
Today marks exactly 13 years since the adoption of the 2010 Constitution, which was promulgated on August 27, 2010 by former President Mwai Kibaki, following a popular vote on August 4, 2010.
Was to signify.
Mike Kagwongo, TV47, Nairobi.
Obtained, and it is now within our custody.
Right, thank you so much, Mike Kagwongo, for that. Moving on, hundreds of youth from Nandi County who failed to secure employment opportunities abroad through First Choice Agency have called out the agency's CEO, Judy Chepchirchir, for lying to the public over refunds or facilitation fees, calling for legal action against the CEO of the scandal-stricken recruitment agency. Now, First Choice allegedly promised them short-term jobs at the World Cup in Qatar and collected money between 40,000 Kenyan shillings to 200,000 Kenyan shillings, as well as documents including passports and academic certificates from the applicants. Our reporter in Nandi, Chris Bett, has the details.
A section of youth who failed to secure employment opportunities in Qatar through the First Choice Agency now wants the company CEO investigated for fraud. 100 of youths in Nandi County accused First Choice of promising them short-term jobs at the World Cup in Qatar, jobs that did not materialize. The alleged victims claimed that the agency collected money between 40,000 to 200,000 shillings, as well as documents including passports and academic certificates from the applicants. The jobs promised include receptionists, cashiers, and cleaners.
Tunasikia Judith anasema kule nje ati ametulipa, lakini hatujalipwa bado. Ni ile tu mambo ya bouncing check ndio inaendelea bado. Tunapata check yenye ina bounce, unapewa check, unaambiwa ati inamajua after 1 month, sijui 3 days.
I've been stepping that office karibu kila siku, but hakuna kitu ya maana yenye wananiambia. Wananiambia tu enda utarudi, enda utarudi, enda utarudi.
Tunaomba tu Judy aweze kukamatwa na serikali ili aweze kurudisha pesa yetu.
Human rights activists led by Kimutai Kirui read mischief in the ongoing investigation against the agency, asserting that despite lacking the necessary legal license for its operation, the company still continues with operations signing up Kenyans for jobs abroad.
It's unfortunate that somebody can be a fraudster in this country. She's freely roaming the country, conning people to a point she's now invoking the name of the president, using chiefs to still con unsuspecting parents and youth. Should it, from our point of view, as the matter is before Senate, which we don't want to belabor, has not renewed a license. National Employment Authority has not renewed a license, so it's criminal. It's illegal for her to continue recruiting.
The agency CEO has however refuted claims of disregarding Senate summons touching on the ongoing probe against her agency, adding that she has nothing to hide and will honor summons by any investigative institution.
We are ready to appear before Senate because there's nothing that we are hiding as a company. We are saying we didn't manage to take every person to Qatar as we had agreed, and we had an application. Despite that, those who managed to go were 827. Those who didn't go, there were 1,184. The 1,184, 445 have been refunded back. The remaining are still on the progress.
Chris Bett, TV47.
Thank you so much, Chris Bett, for that. Now, this next piece is a devastating one. Listen to this. Police in Malava constituency have launched a manhunt for a Form 4 student for allegedly killing a 63-year-old woman over a 60 shillings debt. According to the residents, the 17-year-old working as a shopkeeper in the family shop got into an argument with a woman, an argument that turned deadly. And as our Kakamega reporter Violet Auma reports, the residents stormed the suspect's home in a revenge mission, destroying all property belonging to the suspect's family.
The residents of Teresia village in Malava constituency, Kakamega County, are still in shock over the killing of a 63-year-old woman in what is believed to be a conflict over a small date.
Huyo mama akamwambia kama kata hapa shilingi yako ya 60. Huyo kijana akakata. Huyo akasema nini? Wakaanza korofiana. Huyo kijana akatoka kwa tuka, akachukua mawe. Akapika huyo mama mawe ya tumbo. Huyo mama akaanguka chini, akakufa.
It is alleged that 63-year-old Sarah Vahoya had come to clear 60 shillings debt at the shop owned by the 17-year-old Malava school student's boy's family. Allegedly, upon handing him a 1,000 shillings note, he demanded to take more than what was owed.
Kuishosha alikuwa anadaiwa shilingi 60 na alileta shilingi 1,000. Sasa huyu akataka kukata pesa zaidi kwa kile kiwango ambacho alikuwa anadaiwa. Huishosh kupingana naye, kijana naye akatokea kumwashosh.
After realizing the woman was dead, he took off.
Jambo pengine likikutokea unakuwa mvumilivu kidogo. Unavuta subira angalau kunaweza kukapatikana jawabu. Kuliko unaona huyu kama shilingi 60 zimeweza papisha hasara.
The enraged residents rushed to the shop and his home to take revenge by torching 6 houses, killing animals and destroying crops.
Ng'ombe ziliweza kubebwa, zingine wakachukua kondoo wakarusha kwa hii moto ilikuwa inachomeka hapa, na mahindi ikachomwa tena ikastoe kunyuma ya mahindi, wakachoma tena mahindi kapa ilikuwa hapa, na kuku tena wakachoma sote wakarusha kwa moto.
The body of the deceased has been taken to Kakamega Referral Hospital mortuary awaiting post-mortem. Reporting for TV47, I'm Violet Auma.
Thank you, Violet Auma, for that. Now, tonight, as the country marks 13 years since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, we take you down memory lane. It has not been a walk in the park for Kenya's second liberation heroes who faced detention without trial at Committee Maximum Prison and the dreaded Nyayo House torture chambers, among other government-sponsored acts of harassment. The clamor for constitution reforms, which coincided with the quest for multi-party democracy, finally bore fruit in 1992 when the KANU regime finally repealed Section 2A of the Independence Constitution, paving way for multi-party democracy. Let's get more from Apollo Kamau.
Kenya's painful yet memorable journey to the 2010 Constitution was littered with police brutality, arrests, detention without trial, and forced exile, as President Daniel Arap Moi's regime fought to retain the notorious Section 2A of the Independence Constitution that made Kenya a one-party state after the 1982 attempted coup.
Watu husema demokrasia, lakini hawafahamu maana ya demokrasia ni nini.
The years that followed saw Kenya become a police state where spying, forced disappearances and trumped-up charges became the order of the day. Religious leaders, some who paid the price like late Bishop Alexander Muge, Henry Okulu and Reverend Timothy Njoya, became critical of the Moi regime in the mid-80s, including Njoya's beating by police on July 7, 1990, that made international headlines. Opposition politicians Kenneth Matiba, Charles Rubia and Jaramogi Oginga were also detained without trial, a move that drew local and international pressure after donors cut aid to Kenya, forcing Moi to repeal Section 2A of the Constitution, allowing multi-party democracy.
At that time, I remember very vividly the human work of people like Reverend Njoya, the works of people like Cardinal Otunga, the work of people like Gitari, and all of us coalesced, and President Moi hearkened to our voice. I remember on that day when he stood and said, ikiwa anataka vyama vingi hewala na iwe, and the country has never been the same again.
With Kenya's first multi-party elections held in 1992, which Moi won, the clamor for constitutional reforms kicked in earnest, with Citizens' Coalition for Constitutional Change formed in 1994. It was later to be replaced by the Constitutional Review Commission, CKRC, which was formed through an Act of Parliament in 1997. To spearhead constitutional reforms, CKRC Act was later amended to allow the commission collect Kenyans' views in 1998. CKRC delivered its first draft in 2004, known as the Bombers Draft, which was rejected by President Moi Kibaki, with the president's team coming up with an alternative version of the draft, known as the Wako Draft, after then Attorney General Amos Wako, only to be rejected by Kenyans in the 2005 referendum. The outcome of the referendum sparked divisions in the Kibaki government, leading to a major reshuffle that saw President Kibaki sack key politicians for opposing the draft. The fallout from this referendum was one of the main contributors to the 2007-2008 pool violence following the 2007 showdown elections, whose results the then ODM presidential candidate Raila Odinga disputed. The Kofi Annan mediation team in the crisis recommended comprehensive constitutional reforms during the Grand Coalition government, and soon afterwards, the 2010 Constitution was born.
Thank you so much, Apollo Kamau, for that. Now imagine moving from being one of the top students in your class with great dreams of a glittering career and a life of achievement and fortune to a nightmare, normal schooling, early marriage, and a shattering of those lofty dreams, or perhaps a postponement of your dreams. Now, for 21 years, this is the story of a mother of 5 from Teso South, Busia County, who has fought against odds, never letting go of her dream, and now she's on her way to that glittering future she dreamt about almost 20 years ago.
She's not just the oldest student at her school, but a role model whose story has inspired many. Meet 39-year-old Irene Chebet, mother of 5 and a student at Kenya Medical Training College in Teso South.
Na nilikuwa natamania sana ni pursue any medical course.
She sat for her KCSE examination in the year 2002 and managed to achieve a grade of B plain.
Nikapata grade ya B plain.
Aspiring to become a medical doctor, but her dreams would remain unrealized for 21 years.
Ilifika mahali nilikuwa natamania sana kuwa daktari baada ya kumaliza kidato cha 4. Na hiyo alama ya B plain nilitamania sana kuwa daktari, lakini wazazi wangu hawakuweza kuniwezesha ili ni pursue any medical course.
With no further education, she was also forced to become a housewife and sometimes do odd jobs to provide for her 5 children.
Msichana yote kawaida, niliweza kupata mume, nikaolewa, nikawa na watoto 5.
And after applying, she got a scholarship in the institution and her journey changed to become an inspiring story of hope.
After this college was launched, and Mheshimiwa also decided to give scholarship, full scholarship to some of the students.
Tunahimiza pia maeneo bunge pia waweze kutenga mfuko fulani katika bajeti yao ya basari kuweza kufadhili wanafunzi.
Today, alongside her firstborn, who is also in university, she is back to school and proudly advises young men and women whose dreams have been shattered to never give up. Doreen Mahita, TV47.
Na watoto 5, wavulana 3 na wasichana 2 ambao pia wote wako shule. Kijana wangu wa kwanza ako university, nimeweza kungangana nao pia nikisoma na wao pia wakisoma.
Right, that's a very beautiful report. Thank you so much for that. Moving on, Nairobi woman representative Esther Passaris has condemned adults who prey on their underage, disabled and disadvantaged kin for incestuous acts, warning that the law will soon catch up with them. This even as she urged witnesses to report such cases to achieve justice to the victims who maintain that the law will catch up with the perpetrators accordingly. Passaris was speaking during the launch of a bursary scheme where Gender CS Aisha Jumwa called on women to increase their uptake of the Women Enterprise Fund.
Pesa ya GAF uwe economically empowered, uweze kuangalia watoto wako na boma yako. Hii mambo ya kusema ati unataka kutafuta mwanaume ya kuangalia, wanaume wa kuangalia wanawake siku hizi hawako. Sasa wabunge wenyewe wanageuza sheria wanaume ili kama wamezalisha watoto nje, au watoto wasikuje wapate aibu wakiwa wameenda.
Akaondoa mabrokers pale katikati. Akasema wamama, at your comfort place, wewe unaweza kuaccess hizi pesa. Na kufikia leo kwa sababu tulianza mwezi uliopita, leo asubuhi tulikuwa tumepeana 684 million. Ndani ya mwezi mmoja hizo pesa Women Enterprise Funds tumepeana 684 million kwa groups ambazo ziko na members 13,000 groups.
Right, and beyond our borders, one chief, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has been confirmed dead after a genetic analysis of bodies found in Wednesday's plane crash was conducted. This even as one person died and 57 others were injured in an explosion at a Romanian gas station. This and more in our international news roundup with Zainab Mohammed.
According to the investigative committee, identities of all 10 victims involved in Wednesday's crash has been established, including Wagner's chief Yevgeny Prigozhin. Prigozhin's private jet came down northwest of Moscow on 23rd August, killing all on board. Elsewhere, one person has died and 57 others seriously injured after two explosions occurred at a liquefied petroleum gas station in the Romanian town of Crevedia near the capital city. In Africa, Zimbabwe's President Emerson Mnangagwa has been declared the winner in the just concluded presidential election. The Election Commission says Mnangagwa won 52.6% of the vote, compared with 44% of his challenger Nelson Chamisa. The results have been rejected by the opposition. Finally, new violent explosions have been recorded in different parts of the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. Massive flames have been witnessed near the presidential palace and around the military base of the Armored Corps in Al-Shajara area south of Khartoum. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Right, thank you Zainab Mohammed for that report. Our discussion on TikTok, we're talking TikTok tonight, is coming your way shortly. We're actually asking you what your thoughts are. Should TikTok be banned? Should it be regulated? I see a lot of your feedback. Keep it coming at TV47 News on Twitter, TV47 Kenya on Facebook, and at Grace Kuria KE on Twitter. That's Twitter, yeah. So Nyakundi Lewis here says, he's asking us a question. Explain how content regulation can be done fast. All right, tutakujibu Nyakundi. Chimoto Magera says technology has advanced. TikTok just needs to use advanced programming in their algorithm to prevent sharing or streaming of inappropriate content. That's all. No need to ban the whole app. Marichor Solid Ezra says, ban it. TikTok is for jokers. That's Marichor, okay, not me. So, all right. So we're gonna go sporty. We're gonna take a look at some of the sports stories that are making headlines today with Dennis Otieno, who is already with me here in studio, and then we come back and we get to the point. All right, Dennis, master of sports, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Grace Korea. Now I tell you what, Grace, tonight we have a lot lined up for you in the world of sports. We shall be telling you about the results registered in the Chapa Dimba Safaricom Western Region Finals. Also, the FKF Premier League progressed earlier today. We will be telling you which teams registered what results. Of course, those among many other sports stories lined up for you and coming right up. A very warm welcome to Primetime Sports. My name is Dennis Otieno. Now let's start off with matters athletics. Now Kenya's legendary athlete Faith Kipyegon Saturday night showed the world what she's made of after overcoming stiff competition to become the world's 5,000-meter race champion in the 2023 World Athletics Championships in Budapest, Hungary. Kipyegon, who is a two-time Olympic 1,500-meter champion and had just won gold In the 1,500-meter race of the Games early in the week, dashed to the finish line first in a time of 14 minutes and 53.88 seconds to claim gold in the women's 5,000-meter race. Now, Netherlands international Sifan Hassan, who always looked threatening in the race, finished second ahead of Kenya's Beatrice Chebet, who settled for bronze in a time of 14 minutes and 54.33 seconds. Meanwhile, in the men's 800-meter race,